Welcome to Conversations at Cosy Nook Library, a continuing series where we aim to bring to you authors, editors, children's booksellers, and readers and unravel the mysteries of bookmaking, book selling, book reading, and the whole book experience. And today we have with us a prolific writer who's much loved by children and adults. She mostly writes for children between the ages of 3 and 12. But as somebody much older, I love her books. Some of her books include the Muli series, of course, and picture books like The Raja's Mustache, Granny's Sari, which is my favorite, The Village with the Long Name, and so many more actually. And her new book, which has just hit bookshelves, is the Grand Chapati Contest, which is just delightful, and we're very lucky that we got to read it. So we're very excited about that. So please help us welcome the lovely Asha Nehemiah.
Thank
Hi,
you.
welcome Asha. How are you?
Thank you so much, Radhika, Anita, Sudeshna. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
You know, your bio is so long because I was just reading. You've written so many books. It's remarkable, yeah. It's quite
So,
amazing, and each one is good.
thank you. But actually, I've been writing for a great many years. I think 25 plus years. So it's
Ah,
not that many books. I do feel that younger authors are just, much more prolific. But that's the way I write, slow and thoughtfully. And
I
yeah.
think you
and
hit the
that's why,
balance.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why your books are so good, really. So, tell us about the new book. We were very lucky we got to read it, and I absolutely loved it. Everything about it. So, tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay, so
We,
this is
yeah,
the book, The Grand
yeah.
Chapati Contest. And actually, this story I had written many years ago for an anthology. But when Duckbill Publishers came up with this concept of hook books, which is like early chapter books, well, they're not really chapter books, they're emerging readers, to really transition children from the picture book stage to reading independently. So we had a chat about it, and they said, look, why don't we redo this story for a hook book? So I was very excited, of course. So that's what I did. And I was so fortunate that I got this wonderful illustrator called Chetan Sharma. And his illustrations, if you will just permit me to show you a few, they're just brilliant.
Oh,
They're really brilliant.
Like the way he has captured the expressions of every character on the page. He's done such a brilliant job. And yeah, so it's about a king who's very particular about the kind of chapatis he eats. And then the chief chapati cook leaves to become a holy man. And there's no one else who can make chapatis just the way the king likes. So the queen decides to have a grand chapati contest, and people come from all over. There's lots of fun, games, tricks. And finally, the winner is declared. So that's it. It's a very simple, small, short story, but it's fun. And of course, I had to rewrite the story to make it appropriate for the age group.
yeah. It's funny, but it has a lot of things in there which are just we loved it basically. So thank.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can't wait for the books to come to the library. We're waiting. I think it should be a couple of days, no?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
should have the
We should
books.
be having that. I think they've been closed for the Shera, so after that we should
Yeah.
have.
So yeah. So looking forward to kids just I wish I could read it aloud. It lends itself to a read aloud sort of
Yes,
experience.
yes.
It's
I'm sure you
yeah.
will because you do have read alouds, don't you, at the library?
Yeah. So can't wait to do that. Yeah.
And the
Who has a
illustrations are
question?
lovely. The illustrations are absolutely
Illustrations
lovely.
are
Absolutely,
absolutely,
yeah.
and every character, when you actually get the book in your hand, even
Mm.
when there's a big spread, every character, the expression is so different.
Mm.
And apparently, this Chetan Sharma has some 7 dogs. So I think
Ah, I read in his
used
bio.
the expressions of his dogs on the elephant. And every character, their faces are so expressive that there's lots to just discover as you're reading.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a book that
Absolutely.
looks small, but I think when a kid has it, he or she will be able
Yeah.
to spend a lot of time with the book,
Yes,
which
I
is what
think
you want.
yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the Raja's expression. I've
Yes.
been looking at it and giggling so much because he looks so despondent.
And
Uh,
like Chetan has added this little, he's listening to an old gramophone
Yeah, I
record
saw
with
that.
just sad songs of the
Sad
last
songs.
20 years. All those touches are entirely
Yeah.
one of
I
Nadi's.
I think my favorite was the queen, standing by getting all the repair work done, and it's like I don't make chapatis.
Yes,
That
yes.
whole
which is actually, what I wanted to ask you about. Because in your stories, you have these little things which are tucked away. And like, for example, the queen, what Radhika mentioned, who's definitely not, the in your kitchen types. And that is such a different, take. And it's very refreshing to see something like that in a children's book. Um, and I wanted to know how you do it. Like even in Granny Sari, I love the way the concept of kind of being generous is not in your face. It's a very gentle way of introducing all these things into your stories. How do you do it? It's really so good.
And thank you, Anita. So actually, incredible as it might sound, when I start writing the story, for me, the main thing is the story. I just start with the story, and every aspect of it is, I really try to build that the reader should feel what's going to come next, what's going to happen to this character. And then along the way, certain things just get included. So the first time somebody mentioned, like you're mentioning, this concept of generosity, it had honestly never really crossed my mind. I just wrote it as a engaging story, and they're wondering, will they find the sari? And they do, but they find it in a completely altered form, and their response to it. So I think for me, it's always the story elements which are very, very important. But then probably somewhere in my subconscious, I'm using things which appeal to me and fitting them into the story. So that's how it happens. No,
Yeah, I think
I've
your
never
stories.
sort of set out saying, okay, I'm going to write a story about this, or even say women characters, strong women characters.
Yeah.
So far, I've never really started writing a story which says, I want to feature strong women characters. Or, for instance, now, in the Mooli series, there's this very bright little girl who loves also wearing sparkly things. And there is a lot in children's literature where they say, please don't typecast girls,
Mm.
don't make them wear frilly frocks and sparkly things. But my own feeling is, why can't you be bright and good at math and also like wearing shimmery clothes and sparkly things?
Mm.
So I think it's just a reflection of, so many things which are just buried in my mind, which just find an expression in the way the story goes.
Yeah, I think they truly reflect what a lovely human being you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank,
Really, I really enjoy your stories.
thank you.
if I can add, your the Granny Sari is a huge favorite at the community library,
Hmm.
and I think there's something like Anita said. There's something very gentle. The pictures are beautiful, and I
Yes.
think I don't know what it is about that book, but I have read it aloud. We have had group readings of that book, and it's a huge hit. Kids love reading the book and hearing about, like they like when we read it aloud to them. They like when we discuss that book.
Hmm.
So I think it hits the spot, just right. So
Thank you. Huh.
and you say you don't do it consciously, so which makes it even better.
Okay.
Also, I think you get a lot of the nuances of Indian life. in like street life, in if you go for a walk, the things you see. So any kid anywhere, if they're reading it, they really identify with it because everything is just comes across so naturally and free flowingly
Yes.
real in the
Normal.
story. Yeah, everything is like, so there's a fisherman and there's a woman selling something, and these are things that we all see
Mangoes.
around us, and so I
And
think that.
these are things I find so fascinating actually, just generally people and people pushing carts and people
Hmm.
watching is like a big pastime of mine.
Hmm.
But having said that, one of my books, The Mystery of the Silk Umbrella,
Hmm.
is set in Chennai.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And when I've been doing school visits, a lot of children have turned around and told me, I really like your book. So I said, why? I thought it would be the mystery and whatever. They said, because it's set in Chennai. You know?
Ah.
And I was so surprised because to me it would seem that there are a lot of books which are surely set in Chennai,
Hmm.
but apparently they're not enough to satisfy the readership. So yeah, I do like adding a little texture to the story by bringing in some details, not in
Yeah.
an overpowering way, but some details of the food, the clothes, the flavors, and yeah, I love doing that.
Sudeshna, you want
Yeah.
to
Um, yeah, so actually, I wanted to ask a little bit about your writing and publishing journey, and you've also mentioned that libraries hold a very dear place in your heart. So, have libraries sort of affected the way you become a writer? And I also wanted to ask you a little bit about your writing journey. Like, how did it start? Did you always want to be a writer, or did it just come out of the blue? So, talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to answer it, all
Yeah.
together.
Mm,
So yes, I've always known that I would do something connected with writing, because I guess it's you discover in yourself a talent for something, and I think I was pretty fortunate that in the schools and colleges I went to, that was kind of encouraged, and I would always be chosen as the one to write, some report or edit the school magazine or edit the college magazine. So I knew that I would always do something connected with writing. So I did try my hand at freelance writing. I worked as a copywriter for some years. And then writing for children, it just kind of happened. I like to call it like by a series of fortunate events. I never had any intention of writing for children. I just kind of tried it. I wrote for, I think it was Indian Express. They used to feature a small story. So I wrote a story for that. And it is more or less like, sometimes you meet somebody and you know that I think I can really be friends with this person. So I think me and children's writing, it happened like that. I sort of went into it, and there's just something which I found so fulfilling about
mm,
it, even creatively fulfilling, because there's so many different challenges. Say you're writing 100-word story, and you're writing 5,000-word story, and a 20,000 full length book. Each thing has got so many different challenges. So I think even creatively, there's so many challenges that I just completely love doing it. And then, of course, by the way, I had my own children, which is when I realized that I've always been a reader. I've loved books. And I was so fortunate to really have access to good libraries. In fact, one of the first libraries I went to was at the Secunderabad Club in Hyderabad, where my parents would take us, and things, it was a safe environment. So they would do whatever. And there was this beautiful little children's section there with tiny little cane chairs and bookshelves just at that height. And I think I was very young at that time because I don't recall being allowed to borrow the books, but I could just sit there and read. And a lot of the books available then were, the graphic version of classic stories.
mm.
So I used to just read them. And subsequently, I found so many people have attributed their love for books to that library and
Really?
that
Oh.
librarian. I don't
Does
even
it still
know what his
exist?
name. It must be, but the librarian, I still kind of have a picture of him, a very soft-spoken person. And
Mm.
I do remember that when my brother wanted to borrow books from the section meant for adults, he said, "Yeah, go ahead, do it." He's just such a lovely, gentle person. And I
Mm.
think I've met at least 10 or 20 people who have been into that club, and they say, wow, you know, that their reading journey started there. And the other person who used to love reading was my grandfather.
Mm.
So when we came to Chennai during the school vacations, he used to have these two bookshelves embedded into the wall, and he used to love buying books from, there used to be a Moore market where the central station booking office is in Chennai, which subsequently got burnt down. They used to have used bookstores all around the corridors. So my grandfather used to love going to those bookstores. So each time when I came from my vacation, so this was like a home library, and there weren't too many books for children available in India.
Yeah.
So there used to be Agatha Christie and Perry Mason. My grandfather was a lawyer. So I used to just love, and there used to be two rows of books. So I used to pull out. And it was very rare that he would tell me that, no, I don't think you should read this book. So I think that is where my love for stories with a very strong storyline, the
Mm.
every run, every shoot. I think that's where it started. And subsequently, every city that I've lived in, I've always had a library walking distance. So I think it's really lovely if you can walk to a library
Yeah.
and you have access to a variety of books. And so coming back to reading, I feel that nurturing the imagination in a child is one of the most important things. And what better way to do it than through reading? They always have these things that you have to give children books about children like themselves.
Mm.
Otherwise, they cannot relate to the stories. I certainly feel, yes, you have to give children books about characters who are like themselves. But why should you restrict it to that? And you see children playing cricket in the Maidan, and they want to be Sachin Tendulkar, or they just running and they want to be Usain Bolt. So when you have a child who can make that leap of imagination and saying, look, I can live in a basti, but I can be Sachin Tendulkar, why should you just restrict them by giving them books only about characters like themselves? Why can't a child read a book about Mahatma Gandhi and say, I can be like him?
Mm.
So I feel that nurturing the imagination is one of the most important things, so that children begin to believe that I can do this, I can be like that. So for me, I think reading fiction especially is reading fiction is what really nurtures and encourages the imagination in a child, and that is something we really have. It's a big gift you can give your child if you can
Yeah.
give them that.
In fact,
Absolutely.
that sort of,
Absolutely.
I'm talking about, like you said, a little bit about representation. And lately, as in the last few years, there's been a lot of debate within the children's writers and that whole community of writers, publishers, whatever, about the kind of books we are publishing, whether we are doing enough, whether we are representing different our society enough through this. And you have spoken a lot about it. You read a lot of different children's writing that is coming out within not just any one, but I think like all of us wait to hear what you think about a new book that we have published. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you feel is happening with children's writing in India today, and where do you think it's going? And like you've seen it also over so many years, so I would really be interested to know that.
Actually, when I started writing for children, which is more than 25 years ago, most of what was available for children were myths and folk tales. with a very strong didactic layer, no?
Yeah.
And I think parents also at that time felt happy if there could be a moral in the story. So when I started writing, I started breaking away from that and started writing funny books and books with no explicit moral. So that's how I started. And Indian books have come a long way. There's been so much excellent writing, and more than excellent writing, I think there's been so much of excellent visual component
Yeah.
terms of illustration. And I think the illustrators are really pushing the boundaries, and they're just using so many techniques. They're just doing a wonderful job. And in terms of representation, I feel that yes, our books are becoming more diverse. We are showing many more characters, but there has to be that diversity. And I just want to share with you, the Mooli books which I've
Mm.
written are
Mm.
squarely set in urban upper middle class homes.
Yeah.
And I once uh, went to Parikrama, which is it's a lovely school, but meant for children of a very underserved communities. So typically, the parents of these children would work as domestic housemaids, or they would be laborers. So I went there and I started reading from the book, and I was doing some activities with them. And even as I started doing those activities, I was saying, oh my gosh, maybe I should have chosen a different book. Should I have, no? But because the children found the elements in Mooli, which is, there are two children trying to win a competition.
Yeah.
So they could identify. And I left them with the task that if you had to make an entry for a competition like this, how would you do it? Sketch it, and I'll be back next week. And when I went back next week, it was just amazing the sort of things they had just transferred their experiences. So it was a lot about making chapatis and
Mm.
rolling chapatis with your right hand and dipping them with your left hand. And so that really set me thinking is why should we think that children should only have books about other children like themselves? Why can they not see themselves in different kinds of characters? Yes, it would be a problem if you only gave them
Mm.
like we did. We
Mm.
only had, British characters or, in our books. But I really think that you should give children lots of variety in the kind of books they read. Yes, give them children who look like themselves, surely. But also, why not allow them to see blonde haired, blue eyed children? And I also believe that when, like if you give a gift pack to a school library,
Mm.
typically we like to choose lower priced books so
Yeah.
that we can give more books. But I feel you should also include some really handsome, hardbound, beautiful books.
Beautiful books. Yeah.
So whenever I make a request to somebody that, if I do an event for them and I say, can you give books to a library? They would like to choose Children's Book Trust or Pratham. But I always ask them that, can you also include some really good, beautiful looking books so that they also feel the joy of handling such a lovely book? Yeah.
That is just beautiful. You have said something that is very, very close to my heart, which is writing for emergent readers. And as a elementary school teacher for many, many years, that is what I did. And at the library, we have so many, many little children. It's amazing. I think our youngest member was like 2.5, right? Or maybe two when.
Yeah. Mm.
So we have a lot, yeah. And so we've seen them go from like pointing to pictures to like actually reading and that aha moment happening. So talk to us about the emergent writing. Both chapter books and the other like emergent reading. What about it is?
So I think this was a gap in the Indian publishing industry, which
Yes.
publishers saw the opportunity. And at the same time, I am a grandmother, so I have a 6-year-old grandson. So this is very close to my heart because I can actually see how he's moving from single words to, and I felt that so I was very happy to get on to seize the opportunity when it was offered to me, because we don't have enough Indian books. We
Hmm.
have access to a lot of, series of I can read or,
Yeah.
level reading, but we don't have enough Indian books.
Yes.
So I feel that the earlier you hook, that way the hook
Mm.
books is a very excellent. It's an excellent concept. The earlier you hook a child to reading, the better it is. And what better way to do it than through a story? So, first the parent reads with the child, then they read not knowing the meaning or they're not able to read every word. And eventually, by this process of learning things by heart, which they do so unself consciously,
Yeah.
and by identifying the words, it's so fascinating. And then once the child begins to read, there is just no stopping them. I mean, they read
Yes.
non-fiction, they read all kinds of things. So it is like close to me. It's something I'm very interested in doing now. And one of my friends actually made this comment is that you keep writing for whichever age group of the children in your family. So I have written middle grade books at one
Yeah.
time, but now this is my particular interest. And I think that you do need to have writers also writing it.
Yeah.
You need to have educators writing it, sure. But I think what writers can do is to bring that little creative twist, a little bit of imagination or imaginative use. So I think
Yes.
it's a good partnership if writers can write it and educators use and give feedback. So I'd love to have your feedback on my new book, how children are responding to it.
Absolutely. We would love to do that because I think uh, at the library, that book just hits that Goldilocks spot because there are so many. So it's just right. Yeah. And I'm so excited about the fact that you're going to be writing books for emergent readers because, yeah, like you said, that is where you want to catch the kids first. And yeah, yeah, definitely. So Rishna, do you want to
Yeah. I wanted to ask, you read a lot, and I can see like a wall of books behind you. So, do you have any book recommendations for kids? What would be your top five children's favorite children's books?
Okay. Instead of
this is
top
a great
five books,
question.
can I just
Top 10.
okay. So right now, let me see. One of the books I absolutely love, which I think can work across age groups, is the Ninja Nani series by Lavanya Karthik,
Okay.
because it has that lovely mix of the graphic
Mm,
novel and it has just this crazy, wild imagination. So I
mm,
think that's a beautiful book. From for younger readers, one of my favorite books is Mahashweta Devi's YY Girl.
mm.
Hmm.
It's I think it can work for so many
Yeah,
kids.
it's a lovely book.
For older children, there are two books which I've recently read. One is Savitri Bai and Me, I think it's called,
Mm, mm,
by Sangeeta Mule.
Hmm.
And there is, as a companion piece, there is this beautiful book, Bhimayana by Navayana Publishers. And what
Yes.
I find so exciting about it is the way the Gond artwork is used in the graphic
mm,
format. Then, of course, there are authors with whom you can never go wrong, like Subhadra Sen Gupta, Anushka Ravi Shankar. I would say pretty much any books of theirs you can pick up and read.
mm,
And from international authors, I love Kate DiCamillo because
mm,
she, again, I just love the what she's done with the emerging readers. Her Mercy Watson. and then the Deckerwood Drive series.
Yes.
And then she has books for older children. She's just an amazing author. Michael
And
Morpurgo,
her La La La, which is like,
La
have
La
you seen
La,
that?
yes.
Yeah.
And you know what happened to me? There's a British Council library which used to be like, I feel so sad that they closed. But the last time I went to issue books from there, I had issued La La Land, La La
Oh,
La, sorry.
Hmm.
And
oh,
when they closed the library, they said just keep the books you have with you.
Oh.
So I felt so bad that I hadn't borrowed more books, but I have like some 8 books, some beautiful books, which
Oh.
are now mine to keep. And La 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 is one of them.
Oh.
how lovely. How lovely. Yeah. So
I think
thank
we
you
are out
so
of time.
much. It's such a delight here to chat with you. I mean, it's like your books are amazing, but so are you. So it's very nice when the author sort of lives up to the, you know, like how good the books are. I think it's more nice to go back to the books again when the author is so nice. So thank you for doing this with us. We hope to see you in at Cozy Nook soon.
Yes.
Definitely.
Come
Most
come with
definitely.
Thank you.
our
And we're really
pleasure.
looking forward to your new book at the library.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
let you know how it's going with the kids.
Please do. And whether children are actually able to pick it up and read on their own.
Don't know if it told you this, but there was like this huge, like a fight between a couple of moms last week over the Muli books because
Okay.
a couple of moms wanted it and some other child had it and they were so your books are anyways in demand, but this new one is just so yeah, it's going to happen. We're going to need more than a copy to keep the kids happy. So and the moms. So yeah. So all the best. We're looking forward to more books and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to seeing you also in person.
Sure, I'd love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Oh, bye.